Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Cooking with Your Librarian. We're going to have a little departure this week from the kitchen and head instead into my living room, where I will be joined by my fellow Buffalo and Erie County Public Library Central location co-worker, Beaufort Wilburn, who is our gardener. If you have been to the Central Library, you'll know that our gardens are gorgeous in the front and sides of the building, and Beaufort is responsible for that, keeping those beautiful. So I asked her to join me over Zoom today and help me out with my house plants because they really need help. And while I can get around pretty well in the kitchen, my plants have not fared as well. So come on in to my living room and take a look at this, and you may want to give this kind of care to your house plants. These are going to be some of the things that you'll need for our potting project. Need some potting soil. I have a random container that I just wanted to have close by in case I need to just throw something in there. Got some rags in case things start to get really wild. Some cutting implements. You'll see how we're going to use those soon. Over here we have some scraggly plants that we'll be working with. Paper towels. Same thing about like the rags and things getting wild. We have water in a spritzer bottle that we may need to moisten the soil. And then I have a bunch of empty pots. Not sure which size I'm going to use yet. And then newspaper down on the table because we're going to be getting messy with the dirt. So go ahead and get all those things assembled so that you're ready to go. Today we have a special guest on Cooking with Your Librarian. We have our gardener, Beaufort Wilburn, who, if you are ever at the Central Library, you will see all the beautiful gardens that we have, especially out front and on the sides. And it's getting to be that time of year, so we will be seeing more of the beautiful gardens coming out before we're even coming out. So anyway, good morning, Beaufort. I want to thank you. Thank you for coming into my living room and helping me with my plants, which are in great need of being helped.
Well, I hope I can be some help.
Oh, I'm sure you can. I'm so excited. And I'm sure our patrons are excited too. So I'm going to start by showing you a couple of my plants that have gotten really out of control. I'll preface that with saying that I don't consider myself much of a green thumb. I'm happy if I remember to water my plants, which I frequently don't, but I'm trying to be better about that and, put it on my to-do list so I don't forget my poor plants. But anyway, let me show you the plants I have today. Angle this around. So I have this lovely plant, which like a lot of us hoping to go to the hairdresser to take care of our hair, this plant needs some hairdresser help. So I actually have a couple of them. I have this one and I have this one, but I think we'll just focus on the one for now. So as you can see, this is very overgrown. And what do you call this particular plant?
Well, it's a Tradescantia, but people call it Purple Heart.
Okay. So as you can see, my Purple Heart is bleeding over all over the place. So tell me, what should I do? I'm a little overwhelmed because there's so many different tendrils going everywhere, and I just don't even know where to start. So why don't you walk me through that?
First of all, it's a big fat plant and maybe a little big for the pots, so we're probably going to talk about repotting it. But before we do that, the way it's growing is kind of long and scraggly. It's been reaching for light because it's living indoors. And so you're going to want to prune it, first of all, and then it will be easier to manage when you repot it after we prune it, and that will encourage it to get nice and bushy and pretty looking.
Okay, awesome. So where do we start?
We start by going back to one of the nodes. Do you know what I mean by a node?
The node, is that like where each little like knuckle, they look like little knuckles to me?
Right, and where leaves or branches grow from as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
So you're going to cut back to one of those nodes. The hand you're holding it in, go up to the next one where you're touching right now, above the leaf,
Okay.
right, but above the pair of leaves.
Okay. So would this be a good spot, hopefully?
Or just a little ways above, like maybe a half an inch or a quarter of an inch above the pair of leaves. I
Okay.
can't see all that well, so
Okay, well, I'm gonna cut it here and
yeah,
say,
that looks good.
okay, I did it. Now, what
So now
this extra little piece I just cut off?
that little piece that you have is actually something you can turn into a new plant, and you can root it in water if you want, or in soil. It's easy to do in water, but you need to strip off that bottom pair of leaves
Okay, so should I do that right now while I have it in my hand?
right away if you have some water to put it in.
Oh, okay, so I have this jar and I have some water. I'm gonna fill this jar with some water. Okay, and then I have this, and I'm just gonna gently peel those bottom leaves off. Is that the way to do it, or?
Pinch them off or strip them, yes, one or the
Okay.
other.
Okay. Okay, so there I have that little part that's just open.
Right.
So should I put,
And that node that we talked about earlier is a spot where roots will grow from, or you hope they will.
oh,
Anyway,
cool. Okay.
so put that in the glass of water,
Okay.
and then let's go prune another branch.
Okay. So we're gonna cut another one. So,
Right, and I would choose different lengths to prune. Like the last one, make the next one either shorter or longer than the last one. You want varying lengths just because that's an art. That's like cutting layered. You said it was like cutting hair.
oh
It's
boy,
like you're layering.
I think I'm gonna need to call my hairdresser for some help on this one. Okay. So I'm gonna,
So imagine that you're creating different layers,
okay.
some short, some long.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna cut this one right here, and here's hoping. So,
And then do that, go all the way around, and like I said, choose different lengths. So that's a pretty long one. I would cut that one in half between
okay.
two nodes,
Okay.
and then you'll have two.
Okay. Oh boy, this is getting really interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna cut this one. Oh, right.
Maybe scissors would work better.
Pardon
Oh,
me?
you got it. Okay, and strip the bottom leaves off again.
All right, and add that one to the water.
If
Whoops.
you have a long one, strip a couple of pairs of bottom leaves off.
Okay. So then I'm gonna keep going around the plant and doing that.
Right, and just do it in a slightly irregular fashion. And the reason for that is to make it look sort of natural, as opposed to like you've done a buzz cut.
Okay, so we don't want it to be like when we try to cut our children's bangs and it's real straight and severe looking.
Right, you don't want that.
Okay.
It's not, it doesn't look very natural.
Okay, very good.
So you're doing a layered haircut. You want it to be vaguely messy and fluffy.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through and cut the rest of these.
Okay, like I said, leave some longer than others.
Some longer, okay.
That one maybe, yeah.
So when I'm deciding which ones to leave longer, am I looking for those that
It's just art.
it doesn't matter? Okay.
Well, it might matter in ones that have more leaves closer to the front. You want to cut off the scraggliest parts, the longest, thinnest.
Okay, so this one, this particular one, it looks like it has,
I'd leave that one actually.
you like that one? Okay.
Yeah.
What about that one? You like that one?
That one's pretty long. I'd cut that one.
Okay, so I'm gonna cut that one. Whew.
Yeah. Really think of it as a sort of an art project.
I see, but
You want to get the least attractive imagine your hair has grown out and you've got these long stringy strands, and then some of your hair is nice and thick. So you're not going to cut the thick parts. You're going to cut the long stringy parts.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to go for it and hope for the best.
I think you're doing a great job.
And now there's some, let's see. This one looks like it's got like a wimpy looking piece. So does that mean it's sick, or maybe I haven't watered it for 2 weeks, so it's a little.
No, there's probably nothing wrong with it, but maybe since we're thinning things out anyway, just cut the whole thing off down to the crown, close to the crown.
Okay, we're gonna get rid of that guy.
It's not a very, one thing that will happen is wherever you're pruning, new branches and leaves will grow. It'll start putting out new branches, so you'll get a fuller, fluffier looking plant then.
Okay. Put these to the side.
That's not true of all plants, but this one is very forgiving.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I put those to the side. So now I'm left with what I have here in the pot. So is this the time I would think of repotting, or what do I want to do from here?
Well, it's hard for me to tell through the video, but
Okay.
you've told me it's pretty pot bound and pretty
Yep.
full at the root level. So now would be the time to unpot it and then decide what you're going to do next.
Okay, so how do I get it out of the pot? Should I run the knife around it, or?
If it's really tight in the pot, yes, run the knife around the outside to just sort of loosen it a bit.
Okay, so I'm going to confess, this soil is dry as a desert. Sadly.
That's okay. It'll be easier to handle right now.
Oh.
You're going to want to water it right away when we're done.
Oh, okay. Well, that's serendipitous that it's okay that it's dry. Okay, so.
I mean, it's probably not happy about being dry, but again, this plant is very forgiving. That's why it's a successful house plant. Not all plants do well in the house.
Okay, so now.
Set the knife down. Get rid of the knife now for the moment.
Okay.
Set it down and press gently or tap on the pot, which will further loosen the dirt around there. Bang it all the way around.
Okay.
And then tip it slightly down, but not completely up. Exactly. Perfect.
Okay, now I have.
Okay, now your next decision. There are a lot of roots in there. They're definitely all, that's called circling. And plants do not like that.
Oh boy. I'm sorry, plant.
So, but you probably are going to want to turn this into 2 plants. Do you have 2 pots you can put them in?
Yeah.
Probably around the same size as the pot that you just used.
Yeah. Well, actually, I have that pot, and then I have its sister. So we got.
You'll have 2 plants now.
Okay, beautiful.
Okay, now you're going to want your knife back. Well, no. First, you're going to want to see all those circling roots at the bottom?
Yes.
Grab them and pull them loose.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, it's really tight.
It's really tight and dry.
So use your knife to cut them then, because you're going to cut them off anyway.
Woo! Oh boy.
Just grab the knife and cut them. Okay.
Cut it which way?
Cut them with the pruners or the knife, whatever. Just, you want to cut them. They're way too long.
So I can just cut right through this?
Yeah, you're going to get rid of them.
Get rid of them. Oh boy. Okay.
I mean, maybe not every single one of them, but cut through enough that you can pull them all loose and let them hang down long, the way they would grow naturally.
This is kind of fun. This is like Play-Doh, but dry and dirty.
There, you're getting there.
Oh my heavens. This is really.
Oh, you've got a lot of long roots.
Yeah, this is kind of sad and scary.
They had nowhere to go, and so they just circled. Eventually it would have strangled itself.
Well, I guess it's wow. Oh, look at that. Okay. So
Okay, you don't have to cut them because they came up by themselves.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Okay, now stop messing. Okay, now you got to be more gentle.
Okay.
Start being more gentle at this point.
Okay.
Okay, just gently try to straighten all those roots out if you can without tearing too many more of them.
Yeah, I think that might be it.
Okay. Now set it
Do I
down
wanna
on its,
do I wanna
pardon me?
knock all this extra dirt off or not really?
No, you can leave, it needs some of that dirt.
Okay,
There's nothing wrong with the dirt. The problem's with the roots.
okay,
Okay. Now, if you want to make two plants, it looks like you could slice right through the crown to make two plants. You just want to be sure you have a crown on each part of the plant. And it looks, unfortunately, this video is not that big, but it
yeah.
looks like you can do that easily. So you kind of want to slice, have a crown and stems on each half of the slice, and then just use your knife to slice right down through the middle. Lay it horizontally from one side to the other.
And like
Yeah,
slice through it?
like that.
Okay. And just,
And then just cut straight down.
okay,
Now you can gently rip them apart, rip it apart.
they're apart.
Perfect. You've got two plants now.
Okay.
Beautiful. Turn it around, show the screen so people can see.
Plants. Look at that.
Yeah, two nice plants.
Okay.
Okay. Now you need some potting soil for
Okay.
the pots because these are a lot smaller than it was before.
Okay, so I have my pots and I put some of the fresh potting soil in the bottom of it, and then I'm going to reuse some of this soil.
Just keep in mind that some people say that's a bad idea because
Okay.
it could possibly spread any plant diseases that are in the old soil.
Okay, but if I have a plant that is very healthy, like it's the same, this is the same soil that was in the original plant that looked pretty healthy. So can I make an assumption that the soil that plant is not diseased, or is that a bad assumption?
I personally make that assumption and I reuse my potting soil.
Okay.
But if I were, I tell people that it's a risk I take.
Okay.
But I do a lot of potting of plants. So
Okay.
I can't afford to buy fresh potting soil all the
Okay,
time.
good. And I'm a risk
But
taker,
I
so
have
there
not
you
had
go.
a problem, and I've been doing that for 30 years.
Okay.
But there are people who would say that I'm taking a risk. So if it's a very valuable plant that you're repotting that you don't want to take any risks with, then you might want to use fresh, sterile potting soil.
Okay. We're going to be risky. All right, so I'm taking these old extra roots that I cut off and I'm just going to put those, can I add that to my compost pile out back?
That's what I would do.
Okay, excellent. What you would do, I will do. Okay, so put this back into my pot that I put a little.
Okay, how much dirt did you put in the bottom of the new pot?
There's about 2 inches.
Okay, let's see. Put this, first of all, make sure the roots are spread out at the bottom, coming. You don't want them circling anymore. You want them all loose and spread out.
I see. Okay.
You want to get it to so high enough so that the crown is up maybe an inch from the top.
Okay, it is pretty much just about there, so I'm going to throw more soil in.
Good. Then you start filling in around it. Make sure those roots are spread out before you cover them.
Okay.
Because you want them to start growing out rather than circling around each other.
This is like surgery. Okay, hold on, get more dirt. Oh boy. Wow, this is messy.
I warned you.
Yeah. It's not as messy. Well, actually, I think we're going to make bread one of these days. That can be a little messy. All right, I need one more scoop of dirt. Okay, and do I want to make the dirt come right up to the top, or?
You want to make the dirt come up to the base of the crown. You know what I mean by the crown,
yeah.
Don't you? Where the roots go out from the bottom of the crown and the stems come up from the top of the crown. So you don't want to cover the crown, but you want the dirt to come up to the crown.
Okay. We'll give it one more shovelful, and I think we'll be good from there, hopefully. Whoops.
And now, where you think it's about right is a good time to water.
Okay.
And that'll settle the dirt, and then you'll know if you have to add any more.
Okay, how much water do I want to add without drowning it? Just
Okay, ideally you water until the water runs through at the bottom.
okay, so I've noticed in the library, I've watched you when you're watering plants on our floor, and I've seen you sometimes put the water into the bottom, the little tray, and let it drink from there. Is there a logic to that, or?
The logic is that you won't give it too much. Well, I was doing it mainly with seedlings.
Okay.
And the seedlings were so delicate, I didn't want to drown them from on top.
Oh, okay.
The soil will soak up the water. And in a plant this size, not with the seedlings, but in a plant this size, the roots will start drinking that water. They'll be going down. You don't want the roots to grow up to the top of the pot. You want them to grow down to where the water is.
Oh, okay. Very good. Okay, so.
But in this case, I would say water from the top because you want to settle the dirt.
Okay. So like a half a cup of water, a cup of water?
Well, just a little bit at a time. As it drinks, you'll see it drink. And you'll notice if it comes through at the bottom. When it comes through at the bottom, it's got plenty of water.
Okay. All right, nothing coming through yet. I'll give it another little sip on the other side.
It was awfully dry, so as you said, so it'll probably drink a lot.
Okay.
Nothing coming through yet? Nope.
Oh, crazy.
You can keep watering.
Keep watering? Okay.
It'll take more. You'll see, you'll know when it's taken enough water.
Okay.
It was thirsty.
Okay, now it's starting to kind of drip drop through.
Okay, well, just let it soak through.
Okay.
They say not to leave it in standing water, but usually it'll drink the water back up pretty quickly. If it doesn't, you'll want to pour the extra water off onto another plant, probably.
Okay.
But right now, whatever water's coming through, I expect will disappear by the time the video's done.
Oh, okay.
Or soon.
Okay,
so for now, you can leave that water in the bottom of the saucer.
Okay, so then this one is kind of done for now.
Now that you poured water on, if it's settled a lot, do you need to add any more dirt? Can you see?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter if the crown's a little higher than the surrounding.
I think it looks good.
It looks okay from here. Like I said, it's very hard for me to tell. I'm looking at a very small screen.
Yeah, it's hard for me to tell too, and it's right in front of my face. So,
as you noticed, a couple of times I leaned way over to try to see, but it looks okay. All right, then you're going to do the same for the other half.
I'll do that one later. So, should I take this time now to look at the trimmings?
You can do whatever you want to do during this time, or like I said, they'll probably be fine for a while if you don't do anything with the trimmings.
Okay. So I have this. So should we look at this other plant? This one, it looks like the same situation, although it looks kind of healthy, right? Hey,
it's not as scraggly as the other one, so you probably don't really need to prune it except maybe one branch there.
Oh, okay. So then, and then I can just leave it. I'll just trim the one branch and then leave the rest of it because it's looking kind of bushy.
Well, does it need to be repotted? My guess is it probably does.
Well, yeah, why don't
you do that branch first?
Okay, I'll do that branch. Throw that over there. And then I'll pull the soil out. So there's a funny story about this plant. My sister is a nurse practitioner, and my dad passed away about 22 years ago. And when he died, she was also a nursing instructor. And her students bought her this plant. And she has been transplanting the clippings like how we did over and over and over. And so this plant came off of that plant that's 22 years old. And I just spoke with her this morning, and she sent me a couple pictures of the plants. Supposed to show you what a hardy plant it is, but she calls it the dad plant because she got it when he died, and it just keeps living and living. And, you know, that's been very, very touching for us. Okay, this one's got the same business going on here with the, what did you call these? When they
They're circling roots.
Circling roots that are,
which will eventually strangle. They'll strangle themselves. It'll strangle
themselves in the pot. That's so crazy. Okay, so we're gonna pull these up. Ooh, wow. It's interesting because, I mean, it does come apart easily. They kind of rip apart, but I can kind of sense the plant going, ouch, ouch.
Those roots aren't very healthy. So it might be saying, oh, I'm so glad to get rid of them.
Okay. Oh my goodness. This one, you know what's interesting? Although this plant looked healthier, the roots are really, really bound. What do you think? Should I
Yeah, you want to rough them, gently work them loose from that root ball.
Oh boy, look at this one. This one trying to escape. This is the rebellious teenager that just broke off.
I would put that in a tiny pot.
Put that in a tiny.
Do you have a small pot? You can put that in.
Okay, yep. We'll do that later. Okay. And then these other ones, I mean, look at some of these roots. They're like gargantuan.
Yeah, you're going to have to be kind of rough, but you don't want to just destroy it. Yeah. Although this plant can probably take it.
Yeah, holy smokes.
But some plants you'd have to be gentler with.
Wow.
Okay, now you want to trim those long dangly things.
All right. I think I'm just going to cut through this and hope for the best because it's just so unmanageable as it is right now.
Now, what you're doing there when you trim those roots, you're giving them a chance to grow a lot of those little fine root hairs, which are the best parts of the root. They're the ones that take in the most nutrients from water and air and soil. So what you're doing is you're giving it a chance to build a healthier root system.
Okay, so that's in there, and then I'm going to put more dirt in. And then I'll water it just like the other one?
Right. Now I gave you one reason to water, which is to settle that dirt. The other reason is the plant's in some sort of root shock, or the whole plant's in some sort of shock.
I'm sure it is.
So it needs water right away.
Okay.
And
it's root shock.
And you should check for the first couple of days, you should check and see if it's drying out quickly, which it might, because like I said, it's going to be really thirsty.
Okay.
And
so, all right, so I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to add some water. So in a couple of days when I'm looking this over and seeing how they're doing, I
would check it tomorrow.
Check tomorrow,
to see if it's dry. Now, one of the rules of thumb with houseplants is not to overwater. Okay. So if it's still moist on top when you check it, don't give it more water.
Okay.
If it's getting dried out at all on top, maybe a half an inch down. If you stick your finger at the top, you can feel how far the moisture goes down.
Okay.
Then at this stage, water it again, simply because it's going to be in need. It's going to be a little bit needy.
Okay.
Now, once once it's well established, you can be as neglectful as you've always been.
Okay, don't give me permission to hurt my plants. So should I?
As you know, this one tolerates neglect.
Say,
But at
say,
the first few days or the first week or so, don't neglect it.
okay. Okay, so we're back. We finished potting the old plants that we repotted, the purple heart plants, and that went really well. And now I almost forgot, we're going to move on to looking at planting some seeds if you want to start a vegetable garden. So to do this, the supplies that I got handy were some egg cartons that are the paper variety, not the plastic variety. I got a couple of those. I got some seed starting potting mix, and I have some seeds. And today I'm going to plant some San Marzano tomatoes and some zucchini seeds. So, Beaufort, you can walk us through this quickly and tell us some things that we need to know about planting these seeds.
Okay. A couple of important things. Whatever you're using, it looks like you're using a wonderfully creative makeshift container, a set of containers to plant in. Make sure they have drainage holes. Check the bottom to make sure they're drainage holes.
Okay, and so for these, I got ready ahead of time, like you told me, and I made holes with my pencil in the bottoms of each of these little holes for the drainage.
Okay, the reason for that is if they don't drain properly, they'll be too soggy, and that will either rot the seeds or wilt these little seedlings. So you've got to have good drainage.
Okay, good tip.
The thing is, because you're planting these indoors and you have all the difficult conditions that plants are not used to indoors, you want a fairly controlled environment, and that's why you're using the seed starting potting soil. It's not actually soil at all. It's a sterile mix of ingredients. And with that, the seedlings are much more likely to survive once they pop. Whereas if you tried it in regular garden soil or even regular potting soil or compost or whatever, you might find that soon after you get this glorious flush of seedlings, suddenly they'll just whoop and wilt and fall over. So the idea is it's important to use this kind of soil for this purpose, this indoor planting.
Okay,
I
good.
think now you're set to put seeds in that soil.
Okay, so I think we'll start with the zucchini.
I put 2 in each one because they might not all sprout. So that way you might be sure to get something in at least each little pocket.
Okay, so I'm putting 2 in each, and then am I, they're kind of, I notice as I'm putting them in, they're kind of falling into the soil mix, kind of, do I need to?
I would press them down a little into the soil mix.
Okay.
Firm everything up with your finger.
All right. Or I
get little handfuls of the potting soil out of your bag and sprinkle it over the seeds. So they're covered by about 1/2 inch.
Okay. All right. So did that. If you can see that, pulled out the tray. Okay, they all look pretty much covered.
Okay, now firm them down a little bit with either your shovel or your fingers.
Okay, I won't be shy. I'll use my fingers.
And
yes.
okay, and then you want the soil to be moist. You don't want it to be really wet, soggy or anything.
Okay.
So you want to spritz it or use your watering can or whatever to make sure the soil is moist.
All right, spritz it. And how do I know when I've spritzed it enough and not over spritzed?
Well, if water comes through the bottom, you know that you've got more than enough water in there.
Okay. Okay, that seems good.
You can also do it later. You know, you don't have to get it all. You just don't want that topsoil to be dry while the seeds are waiting to sprout. They need some moisture to sprout.
Okay. So that's it. So I did that one, and then I will do the same thing with the tomato seeds.
Yes, but they're smaller, so you're gonna just push them lightly into the soil and then very lightly cover them. You don't want that full half-inch coverage. Right. But it very lightly cover them, because if they're in too deep, they're gonna have a hard time. They're gonna use up all their energy trying to get up to the surface.
Okay.
Whereas if they're closer to the surface, they'll sprout and start putting roots down instead of expending all that energy climbing.
All right. So again, do I tuck it with my fingers like we did the last time?
I firm it into the soil a bit. Yeah, you want them to have some contact with the moisture and the soil, but
Okay.
not too compact. You don't want it to be too compact because they need
Okay.
air also.
Okay, we're gonna spritz those. And I think what I'll do is I'll come back in a little while and just see how they look. And if they look kind of dry, I'll add a little more water.
The other thing you can do is pour water into the tray and bottom water them.
Oh,
And
okay.
that will soak up through the paper pots that you're using as well as into the soil. And that might be an easier way to do it without disturbing the seeds.
Okay. So then once I'm done with getting it organized and getting the water in the bottom of the tray, am I going to check it daily to make sure there's water in the bottom, or?
Well, you don't want water to stay in the bottom.
Oh.
You want it to be soaked up. And after that, you might spritz or just water with a watering can or whatever.
Okay.
A watering can might be a little heavy flow. That's why you're using the spritzer.
Okay.
The other thing is light. Once they start to sprout, you're going to want to give them good light. You can put them in a warm spot for now. Some people say on top of the refrigerator if you have space up there.
Oh.
I never do myself, so I try to find warm, sunny windows, which I don't have much of, but you might have more of.
Okay, so I can put it on top of the fridge, even though it's not going to get a lot of light up there, just for the
They
sprouting?
don't need light to sprout.
Oh, okay.
Or they don't need much light. These particular ones, because you've covered them.
Okay.
Once they sprout, though, then they need light, and they need good light. So
Okay.
if you don't have a good source of light, or you don't have a light fixture, like you can use a shop light or something.
Okay.
For
Well,
less light.
I have this big front window. Would that work for a good light?
It'll work for a while. At some point, if you had to keep them inside for a long time with just window light, they would get really leggy. So that if you were doing this earlier in the month or back in March, you'd want to have a fluorescent light to keep them under once they've sprouted. But right now, your window should be good enough and should probably hold them until they get outside in late May.
Okay. Well, here's hoping.
Yes.
All righty. Well, very good. Well, we'll sign.
Less than a month away.
I know. And the weather looks like it's starting to get nicer and nicer. So that's really exciting. So, okay. Well, I will post updates about this on the website, see how this all works out, and post updated pictures. But Beaufort, I want to thank you so much for coming into my living room and helping me with my scraggly houseplants and showing our patrons how to plant some seedlings if you want to try a vegetable garden this year. I think people are going to be home a little more than usual, so this might be a really good year to try that out. So I want to thank you so much for all of your expertise, and I look forward to seeing you in person sometime soon.
I hope that's soon. And thank you. I've enjoyed this.
Oh, you're very welcome. All right. Well, we'll talk soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.